Welcome to See Films. In this video, we delve into the movie Kong Skull Island. We will discuss movie storyline and its ending. We will also talk about movie cast and character. Moreover, we will discuss movie reviews and its box office. So here we go. King Kong came roaring back to life in Warner Bros. Legendary Pictures Kong Skull Island, which easily topped the US box office in its opening weekend with about $61 million. However, the film has quickly dropped off in subsequent weeks after its opening as the competition stiffened, with the likes of Beauty and the Beast and Power. Ringers crowding the field, with the monsters planned from Warner Bros. And Legendary. Producers were likely hoping for more from Kong Skull Island domestic box office number. Kong Skull Island overseas box office, however, has far exceeded its domestic total. The Jordan Vogt-Roberts Robert opened in 64 other countries and is outside the US where the film has really excelled. It has performed particularly well in China and other East Asian countries. And despite its relatively low US box office number, the film's international total have propelled it past the coveted $500 million worldwide milestone. As reported by Deadline, on Thursday, Kong Skull Island international gross has reached $358 million, pushing its worldwide total to be $509 million. The film has performed particularly well in China, where its $124 million total is nearing into US gross of over $150 million. Skull Island is expected to be finished in the top 10 highest grossing English language film of all time in China. Kong Skull Island has become the top grossing film of all time in Vietnam, where much of it was shot on location, and opened strongly in Japan. According to Deadline, the film's $500 million worldwide benchmark is significant in China. It's nearing the 1 billion RMB milestone. The film is being distributed in China directly by Legendary Pictures, which is owned by the Chinese conglomerate Wanda Group. It took a strong international showing to be reached $500 million worldwide. It's still a hugely impressive total for Kong. Skull Island, its success is a good sign for Legendary and Warner Bros. Planned Monster was pitting King Kong and Godzilla against each other. Skull Island wrote its strong review to a similarly strong performances at a worldwide box office, easily smashing its $185 million budget, and it has a way to go before it's done in China. Kong Skull Island has a good chance to pass Godzilla's $529 million worldwide total, but it's not likely to be reached the latter $200 million domestic gross. That will invite the question of whether the film is really a box office success. Still, Skull Island relative letdown in US theater could simply be a case of bad timing and crowded competition in a surprising strong March box office. On the strength of the international performances, Kong Skull Island could be considered a winner. Kong Skull Island did not just top the box office this weekend. It did so with a shockingly lazy Friday Sunday frame that ended up above even my let's become optimistic because the movie is really good. Predictions the Legendary and Warner Bros. Time Warner offering snatched on estimated $261 million this weekend, including $7.5 million in IMAX alone. That's give the Monster Smash Adventure a jaw-dropping 3x weekend multiplier. For comparison, Godzilla $38 million and Pacific Rim both had weekend multiplier out 2.4x and 2.6x for a film like Skull Island to perform as well as it did over the weekend. Not just on that $20 million Friday means that audiences like when the Kong is cooking or the kids wanted to see the old school monster mash. The $185 million budgeted would be blockbuster still has come tall building to be climbed to get to be outright profitability. But a conventional wisdom was projecting this one at around $45 to $50 million for this weekend. This is a massive overperformance and the credit goes to all the right place. The quality of the movie and the quality of marketing. Yes, the last two trailer Way to be spoiler. Why? But a successful moved a needle right at the last minute. While the prior-to trailer got films nerd like myself interested, and a poster offering were in themselves gorgeous works of art. And of course, you had a rousingly enjoyable movie, and WWB got to be watched over relatively early. The film split $56 million percent male, 18% under 18 to 50, 35% under 25, and 52% under 35. It earned an overall B plus from Cinema Score, and the film earned $146 million worldwide, with China and Japan still on track for the weekend out of 24. But let's concentrate on domestic film fortune for now. If Kong Skull Island performed like Get Edward, Godzilla, the famously front-loaded monster mash of 2014 that kicked off this whole when we are looking at a still halfway decent $133 million for the Tom Jackson's hacking adventure. However, if it played like a Pacific Rim, which earned $101 million for $37 million weekend in the summer of 2013, then it's genuinely solid $169 million domestic total for a Jordan Vogt-Roberts directed offering. I'm guessing I will be somewhere in between these two extremes. Now on its face, a mega budget movie opening with a $60 million instead of $50 million is not that much of a difference, but a huge weekend multiplier and relative overperformances in terms of tracking make this something resemble new and keep the whole giant monster cinematic universe in a healthy place. We have got Godzilla, King of the Monsters in 2019, and Kong vs. Godzilla in 2020. Now it could just be kid powered madness filled with a youngin who will flock to be Walt Disney's Beauty and a Beast next weekend. But for now, I am impressed with the Kong Skull Island weekend performance. The film even finally brought a critical community back to its zen regarding Peter Jackson's film. Awesome King Kong saw its win. Kong Skull Island was the only new wide release, but it was at least two noteworthy limited bows. I have seen debuted Olivier, much anticipated among the art house crowd. Personal shopper into Ford Theatre. The Kristen Stewart vehicle earned around 81,000 over the weekend for a 20K per location average. That's right in line with the debut of Cloud of Sight Maria on three screen in 2015 and above the like of 13 women, $60K in 5 theater last year, and Cam X-Ray single screen in late 2014. CBS Films launched Sense of an Ending into 4 theater as well as this weekend. Ritesh Batra's adaptations of Julian Barnes' novel star Jim Broadbent, Michael Joffrey family, and Ramping among others. The well-reviewed drama earned 42,000 over the weekend for a surprisingly leggy weekend multiplier. It earned on Friday and then on Saturday. The 10.5K per location average is merely okay, and we will see to what extent this one extends as contra programming over the next few weeks. Los Angeles Kong Skull Island emerged victorious after a battle of the beast that pitted the giant app movie against the Wolverine's last stand, threatening a wave of good review. Skull Island of the domestic box office, racking up a mighty $61 million that handily beat estimate, which had Kong Skull Island. King Kong's road did not totally drown out Wolverine's berserker rage in his second weekend. Fox's Logan dropped 58% to $31.7 million to pushing its stateside total to $152 million. The R-rated comic book adventure is Hugh Jackman's swan song as Wolverine after nearly 2 decades playing the X-Men team member. Kong Skull Island gets bragging right of dropping expectation, but the film is not out of the woods yet. It cost a hefty $185 million to be produced, which means that it will need to be a hit overseas if Legendary and Warner Bros., the studio behind the film, want to make a profit on the domestic front. Kong Skull Island is also starring Dawn Disney's Beauty and the Beast, a live-action fairy tale that is expected to be premiere to as much as $120 million next weekend. That will likely suck up most of the oxygen into multiplexes, making it difficult for other films to keep drawing in big crowd. Legendary and the Warner Bros. Have grand ambitions of King Kong. The film is the second installment in a planned monster franchise. The first chapter, 2014 Godzilla, opened to $93 million in the state before dropping out at $529 million. The plan is for King Kong and Godzilla to meet in an epic showdown, a primordial creature at some point in a not to be distant future. The movie is pure fun and has translating into the box office. Sajab Golsan, domestic distribution chief at Warner Bros. He went on to predict that the film would benefit from rolling spring break tide. We'll see more than 20% of the nation's school children on vacation and looking for something to occupy their time. The opening weekend crowd for the film was 56% and 35% under the age of 25. He makes showing accounted for $7.5 million worth of ticket sale. Because of its massive production and marketing cost, Kong Skull Island will need to be do roughly $500 million worldwide to be considered a success. To that end, the film debuted to $81 million in 65 foreign markets. A lot is riding on how the movie performed in China, the world's second largest film market. Kong Skull Island opens in the Middle Kingdom in 2 weeks. Set in the waning days of the Vietnam War, Kong Skull Island Exchange Embassy. Helicopter rescue from our sides primate looming large Angesa, fog and scattered jungle setting. Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who made a splash with a Sunshine favorite king of the summer. With Volvi and Kong joking it out for the top slot, Blumhouse and Universal. Get Out snatched third place. The low-budget thriller about a black man whose visit to his white girlfriend hometown takes a sinister turn picked $21 million. It has earned $11 million in 3 weeks after release, a fantastic return on its $4.5 million budget. The top 5 was rounded out by the Lionsgate, The Shack and Warner Bros. The Lego Batman movie, which earned $10.1 million and $7.8 million respectively. The Shack, a fact-based drama, has grossed $32 million in the 2 weeks of release. The latest Lego movie has earned $159 million after 5 weeks in theater. Among limited release, CBS films the second of the ending, an adaptation of Julian Barner Prize-winning novel, open to 4,000 from 4 locations. While Focus was Raw, a horror film about a vegetarian student who turned to be cannibalism debuted to be from the two theater. Ticket sales were up nearly 25% from the same weekend in 2016, a period that overlapped with the second weekend of Zootopia and the debut of the 10 Cloverfield Lane. Revenues are up roughly 2% year to date, as a combination of Logan, That Out, and now Kong Skull Island are translating into a busy term at the box office next weekend, bring the release of Beauty and the Beast, which should expand 2017's load. King Kong is still a box office giant. Kong Skull Island has crossed $500 million mark at the worldwide box office. It's the third 2017 title to be hit a milestone after Disney's Beauty and the Beast and Fox's Logan. Production companies Warner Bros. Picture, Legendary Pictures and Tencent Picture made the announcement Thursday. The domestic total has topped $150 million in its first 4 weeks, while the international take has reached $358 million, led by $153 million in China. Kong Skull Island took in $22 million on its opening day in China, the second largest English language film launch of the year in the country, behind Resident Evil, The Final Chapter, and the fifth biggest Friday debut ever for a US title in Middle Kingdom. Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson, Johan Goldman, and Barry Larson. Critics have lauded the film's visual effect and fast-paced story. The movie came 84 years after the original King Kong, starring Robert Armstrong and Defy Vere. Kong Skull Island is the second installment in Legendary and Warner Bros. Monsterverse series, following 2014 Godzilla, which grossed $59 million globally on $160 million budget. Godzilla 2 hits theater in March 22, 2019, and Godzilla vs. Kong is slated for May 21, 2020. Warner Bros. And legendary Kong Skull Island road loader then expected in box office debut, scaling $61 million from 3846 theater to top Wolverine prequel Logan. Kong Skull Island hoped to be restored the world's most famous epic glory and build a new film franchise, with a Kong vs. Godzilla installment already in the work. The one major caveat, the movie costing at least $185 million to make before a major marketing stunt will likely need to be earned $500 million globally to land in the black. Overseas Kong Skull Island opened to $81 million from 65 market, minus China, where it had hit at March 24 for a global bow of $142 million. It came in one almost everywhere and scored the biggest opening of all time in Vietnam, $2.2 million. Heading into the weekend, Jamel fueled Kong Skull Island was expected to earn $45 million, $50 million in the US, crossing the $60 million threshold is no doubt a big relief for Warner's and Legendary. The Peak is the second title in their monster universe after Godzilla, which debuted to be $93 million in May 2014. The film ultimately earned $529 million worldwide against a production budget of $160 million. On these kind of movies that big fan Friday, you would expect to be down on Saturday. We're up 19%. And Warner president of domestic distribution, Jeff Goldstone. We ended up in a fantastic place compared to be where we thought we should would be. The marketing came together in a huge way. Kong Skull Island is the first Hollywood studio movie featured the iconic app since Peter Jackson's 2005 King Kong, which opened to be $15 million. Jackson's film wasn't famous for costing north of the $200 million. The new movie garnered strong review for a 78% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and audiences were less keen, awarding it a B+ cinema score. This time out, the story takes place entirely on the island, where the legendary animal resides, alongside a baby oversized creature, and is set in the 1973 at the end of the Vietnam War, when a government agent assembles a team to investigate a mysterious fog shrouded local directed by Jordan Roberts in his first studio assignment. The film's ensemble cast include Tom Hiddleston, Samuel Jackson Brea, and Johan Goldman. Kong Skull Island faces the challenge of being sandwiched between the Logan, which is reputed to be a rousing $88 million domestically and nearly $250 million worldwide a week ago, far ahead of the expectation, and Disney's Beauty and the Beast, which opens around the globe on March 17. In particular, the Kong team did not expect Logan to have such sharp claw or competing formula. Like Logan, Kong Skull Island did big business in IMAX theater, falling to number 1. Number 2, Logan grossed an estimate $37 million for a decline of 57%, a good showing for a fun one driven title. The R-rated movie, which cost just under $100 million to produce, has earned nearly $152 million domestically and $85 million covers for a dollar $473 million of global Q. Logan's weekend foreign take of $70 million was not good for behind Kong. Logan has the advantage of China but where it has scored $87 million in its first weekend. Kong Skull Island International Board exceeded Godzilla in many markets. The UK led with $7.6 million, 17% ahead of Godzilla. Jordan Peele continued to be scared of strong business for Universal and Blumhouse production domestically, placing number 3 with an impressive $21 million in its third weekend and grossing the $100 million mark for a total $11 million through Sunday. The Maverick horror film cost under $5 million to be made. Among the opening at a specially box office, IFS Personal Shopper, directed by French filmmaker Olivier Assayas and starring Kristen Stewart, debuted to be rented from the theater in New York and Los Angeles for a screen average of the best of the weekend for any title. A French horror film about cannibalism that premiered at the 2016 Cannes Film Festival, as did Personal Shopper, opened in two theater crossing for a location average of 12,615,000. Ratish Petrol's The Sense of the Ending starring Rampling and Jim Broadbent also debuted for cinema in New York and Los Angeles, earning for a theater average of the 1,000 for CBC film. The latest documentary to take on the Church of the Scientology did not fare so well. My Scientologist movie from BBC. Journalist Lois looked into at Arkle Roy to Hollywood, which is not far from the Church Hollywood Hotspot and Celebrity Center, for a disappointing average $584 million. Among other prestigious titles, A24's Moonlight fell to be $1 million from 1987 location after scoring the top number of its run. A week ago from 164 theater on heel of its Best Picture Oscar win. The drop-off in earning and theater count is not surprising given the film is already available on home entertainment. To date, Moonlight theatrical cum stand at $27 million. The estimated for this weekend's box office count wasn't even close. Legendary and the Warner Bros. Revival of the iconic King Kong film series, Kong Skull Island delivers a whopping $61 million, earning an estimated $11 million more than Peter Jackson's 2005 theater. Industry forecast and initially backed Kong Skull Island, directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts for above in $45 million. The debut makes a solid start for the big budget picture, which reportedly cost around $185 million to be produced. Internationally, the film posted $81 million from 2,400 screens in 65 territories, making it number one grossing film in the world for the three-day period. Audiences and critics respond positively to the action film, which scored Movies giving it a B+ grade on Cinema Score. Despite glowing reception for Logan X-Men star Hugh Jackman third and final Wolverine, spin-off fell roughly 57% from its opening number, dipping one slot to be number 2, with an estimated weekend gross $37 million. After just 10 days in theater, however, the Fox film has made an astonishing million worldwide, besting global gross of both X-Men Origin Wolverine $373 million in 2009 and Wolverine for $14 million in 2013. At number 3, Jordan Peele's directorial debut Get Out continued to be impressed as a film. Yet another low-budgeted success for Universal's Blumhouse crosses the $11 million domestic mark with a third weekend total of $21 million. The thriller continued slow descent on down the North American top 10, having fallen in more 15% from week 1 to week, followed by 25% this weekend. Rounding out the top 5 are the Lionsgate Summit released the Stag, which pulls in another $10.1 million for a 10-day total of $32 million, and Warner Bros. Animation The Lego Batman Movie, which shared 83% for a fifth weekend finish of $7 million. On the limited front, Focus's was busy cannibal title Raw, Delison estimated from two theater, helmed by the French filmmaker Julia Raw. Kristen Stewart's career has Gans drama Personal Shopper to a healthy start at four sites in New York and Los Angeles, averaging per theater for a final at number 3. Overall box office up around 0.3% from the same film last year. Per score, check out the March to be 12 weekend box office estimate. The debut marks solid start for a big budget picture, which reportedly cost around $185 million in produce. Internationally, the film posted $81.6 million from 2,400 screens in 65 territories, making it number one grossing film in the world for the three-day period. Audiences and critics respond positively to Go Action film, which polled movies are giving it a B+ grade on the cinema score. Legendary and Warner Bros. Revival of the iconic King Kong film series, Kong Skull Island delivers a whopping $61 million, earning an estimated $11 million more than Peter Jackson's 2005 series retold which went on to gross $550 million worldwide across its entire theatrical run. Industry fascinated had initially pegged Kong Skull Island, directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, for a bow in the $40 to $50 million range in a tight race with a Fox's Logan. After 20th Century Fox, Logan came away with an easy box office. When last weekend, many were expecting the superhero movie to take the top spot at the box office this weekend as well. While Logan did not suffer a drastic second weekend drop, 57% it did drop to be second place, with Warner Bros. Kong Skull Island overperforming, taking in an impressive $61 million, while Logan earned a decent $37.8 million. While it was originally expected to be a close weekend at the box office, Kong Skull Island had no trouble running away with the box office ground. Box Office Mojo reports that Kong Skull Islands opened with an impressive per screen average from 3,846 theater. While the debut was impressive, it has fallen quite short of 2014 Godzilla, which opened huge with $93 million in 2014, but dropped a massive $66 million in its second weekend and 61.2% in its third weekend, closing its domestic run with a $200 million, with a worldwide tally of $529 million from a $160 million budget. We reported last week that a Kong Skull Island post-credit scene will turn into the upcoming Godzilla, King of Monsters, arriving in 2019, which will then into Godzilla vs. Kong, debuting in 2020. While Kong Skull Island may not have a bigger debut than Godzilla, it may have more at the box office and have a better overall run at the box office, but we have to wait and see. In the spirit of its worldwide blockbuster Godzilla, Legendary Pictures presents a bold new take on the mythos of another iconic beast with Kong Skull Island, which stars Tom Hiddleston. Directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts and written by Johan Gatnes and Max Goldstein, Kong Skull Island will fully immerse audiences in the mysterious and dangerous home of the King of the Apes as a team of explore when show deep inside a pyramidal island. Legendary story honored the foundation of existing King Kong lore, but places it an entirely new, distinct timeline. Thomas Telcha Dark Knight and Jashni will produce and Alex Garcia will executive produce. The film will be released in 3D, Animax 3D by Universal Pictures. The critically acclaimed Logan has had a strong overseas debut, with $159 million for a global total of $247 million. The story is set in the year 2024, where the mutant population has shrunk significantly and the X-Men have disbanded. Logan was powered to be self-healed is dividing, has surrendered himself to be alcohol, and he earns a living as a takes care of the ailing old Professor X form. He keeps hidden away. One day, a female stranger asks Logan to betray a girl named Laura to be the Canadian border. At first, he refuses, but the professor has been waiting for a long time for her to be appear. Laura possesses an extraordinary fighting power and is in many ways like Wolverine. She is pursued by a sinister figure working for a powerful corporation. This is because her DNA contained a secret that connects to be Logan. A relentless pursuit begins. In the third cinematic outing featuring the Marvel comic book characters Wolverine, we see the superhero based by the everyday problem. They are aging, ailing, and struggling to be survive financially. A deceived Logan is forced to be asked himself if he can or even want to be put his remaining power to good use. It would appear that in the near future, the time in which they were able to do apart to ride with their razor sharp claws and a telepathic power are now over. The top 5 will be rounded out by the horror hit Gallow dropping to be third place with $21 million, followed by the Shake in fourth place with a $10.5 million and the Lego Batman movie in fifth place with $7.8 million. The top 10 will be rounded out by before, for $3.1 million Hidden Figure $2.73 million, Johan Wick Chapter 2, $2.7 million, and $1.7 million, and a fifth shared Darker, $1.6 million. Also opening in limited release this weekend is IFC's thriller Personal Shopper, which is earned 92 from 4 theater for a 23 per screen average. FIP's romantic comedy, which earned from 152 theater for a per screen average. Paladin's drama The Outram Lieutenant, which earned theater for $803 million per screen average. CBS Films drama The Scene of an Ending, which earned $42,000 for theater for a 10-15 per screen average. Focus World horror film Raw, which earned 25 to 30 from to theater for per screen average. The Dracula, which earned from the theater. No box office data was given by the Brainstorm Media drama that other half and stand foreign drama Santon. It remains to be seen if any of these films will expand into a wide release in the week and a month ahead. Looking ahead to next weekend, Disney brings its highly anticipated Beauty and the Beast live-action adaptation to the big screen, going up against the R-rated thriller The Belko Experiment. Also opening a limited release in the long-awaited sequel, T2 Transporting, which will have expansion on March 24 and March 31, respectively. Welcome USA thriller Bluebeard and the Freestyle releasing Burn Your Maps. Take a look at the box office estimate for the weekend of March 10 and check back Sunday for the box office estimate and on next Tuesday for our next wave of the prediction. Update Sunday, with 20 market added on Friday. Warner Bros. Legendary Kong Skull Island elevated its international box office to $27 million. That's factoring the to $15.5 million yesterday on about 20K offshore screen. All overseas market 65 are now open, save China and Japan, which come here later in March. Ahead of the weekend, we had an international opening range of $65 million, $85 million. Some rivals and even considered a start closer to be $100 million. Although there seemed Will still does. A high-end word of mouth is working overseas on a well-reviewed pick and now looks like the mid-range of our original estimate is a decent bet. Sunshine and usually high temperature are playing a part in Europe which can affect box office. Outer game areas are expecting a change in the weather tomorrow. Kong, which stars Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, cost about $185 million before re-entry, which is estimated at $135 million and is opening to be $44 million domestically. Reviews and word of mouth have been good, but as in North America, there is competition in overseas market from Fox's Logan, which shredded the box office last weekend. However, the expensive Kong so far is holding no passes several major and sponsoring in Asia. Next film sees Beauty and the Beast into play. Different demos, but the film is expected to be a monster. Kong is comping well against Godzilla. In some market, that should body well for China and Japan, which were the 2014 film's top play. The current best debut for Kong are the usual suspect in a mixed Russia, Korea, and UK to be so far. Mexico bought yesterday. In Mexico, Kong had its biggest new launch on Friday at $1.2 million from 246 again to come 30% above Godzilla, 29% over Pacific Rim, and more than double 2005 King Kong. The Great Ape had a record-breaking start in the Vietnam with a 590K on 350 screen. The Jordan Vogt-Roberts directed creature feature logged the biggest opening day of all time, beating previous record holder Deadpool by nearly 25%. Also news was Spain with a 339K from 114 screen and ranking number 1. Weather is affecting the movie's ring there, with Kong coming in 7% ahead of Godzilla and on par with the Mad Max Fury Road. In continued play on Friday, the UK, Korea, Germany, Russia, the UAE, France, and Taiwan and held number 1 spot. Currently, Russia leads offshore lab hubs with $2.8 million after rating 870K on Friday, a 32% jump from Thursday take. The UK has a cum show Friday of $2.3 million after doubling Thursday number. Korea is the next with $2.2 million from a 51% jump on Friday. France has $1.6 million to Friday, with 44% increase over Thursday. Germany rose 38% on a Friday to take their running cum to be $1.3 million. Australia and Taiwan are tied at $1.2 million. Brazil is at 917K. In the UK, Hollywood Big App, a property which is the public domain, tapped some $51 million, is currently lower than Pacific Rim there. The WB legendary film also cost in the same neighborhood as Kong at $190 million and made more abroad than its US $309 million, and a Monsters Robot movie funneled at $12.8 million, wrapping 4% of its overseas haul. Russia loves the gorilla. He is number one there with a 46% share of the top 5 films with a 653K film, 281 screen, and he is outpacing Logan by 72%, including extensive Wednesday snack. The aggressive cum to be date is now $1.9 million. Korea dropped off with a bite from the non-traditional Wednesday evening with 601K on 821 screen, but commanded nearly 50% of the top 5 market share. The local cum is now $1.3 million. Australia debuted number 1 with 534K on 524 screen, holding a solid 44% of the top 5 market. Results are 4% ahead of the Pacific Rim. UAE grossed a stellar $60K, making a clear number 1, with result over double those for Pacific Rim and 28% above Legend of Tarzan. Germany brought in a 537K on 792 screen, including Snake. It ranked number 1 with a 41% of top 5 market share. The start is 27%, ahead of Legend of Tarzan and 6% over the Pacific Rim. France, they too brought in another $417K, dipping from the Wednesday opening but holding number 1. The cum is now $1074 million. Italy pulled in $159K on 491 screen, ranking number 1 and holding 35% of the top film in the market and ahead of Logan. Southeast Asia saw number 1, opening in 6 market, pulling combined gross of $2.1 million, 1600 screen. Malaysia scored a fifth best WB opening ever on 390K. Latin America launched in 14 countries, including Brazil and Argentina, and $1.2 million tracking is ahead of Godzilla by 30%. Previous Thursday, Warner Bros. Legendary King Skull Island has just pounding in its first opening at international box office, kicking off in 5 offshore market Wednesday. The Jordan Vogt-Roberts directed movie grossed $3.12 million and was number 1 in all debut. Korea delivered an opening day gross of $682 million on 718 screen. It was a strong number 1, with nearly 15% of the top 5 in the market and overtaking has weekend opener Logan by 45% yesterday. Yesterday in France, where an awful lot of people were watching the Champions League clash between soccer clubs Paris Saint-Germain and FC. Indonesia pointed out the 272K on 471 Sen, ranking number 1. Results more than doubled World War II. Opening day are 38% ahead of Pacific Rim and on par with Godzilla. Previous out of Russia, where this fair excel, are estimated at $1.3 million on 113 screen. The full weekend will see 65 international market at play in the field of the giant app. Today, the Tom Hiddleston Larson's Electric debut in 39 include Germany, Italy, Russia, and UK, Brazil, and Australia. Those market and data numbers out of the current launcher will paint a clear picture. Word of mouth is strong, but Logan will remain a little best, and with no content, China goes up, and March 24, and Japan both March 25. I am sure we all have had movies we have really wanted to be good, but secretly feared would disappoint. I can name several, and most of them probably fell in line with my fears more so than my hope. Kong Skull Island is a movie I have wanted to be loved since seeing the first trailer, but there were several reasons why it could have failed and he was never quite able to be shaken by skepticism. Sometimes I love being wrong. Kong is an absolute delight and a rousing throwback to big creature feature that premiered in 1950s. King Kong has had several big screen features. Not as many as fellow movie monster icon Godzilla, but enough to be him a pretty legendary state. The film version steers clear of the traditional King Kong story. There is no damsel in distress venture to New York City or Empire State Building. This time we say about on Skull Island. John Goodman plays Bill Randa, senior official who convinces his government contract to be funded an expedition to map out Skull Island. He requests an escort from the battered and buried US military who in 1973 was in the process of leaving Vietnam. Their escort is led by the Colonel Packard. Let's go ahead and state the obvious. The mission does not go very well. The film wastes no time introducing the character to Deer Kong, more of a towering monster than a big gorilla. The team's surprise introduction and initial clash with Kong may be the film's best sequences. It's an intense, violent collision filled with the chaos and carnage that leaves the team severe, grounded, and separated. Their most negative landscape filled with the loss of the dangerous digital creation. And it's a John C. Reilly, a true scene stealer playing a World War II pilot who has been stranded on the island for 30 years. He is a hoot. The actor Jordan Vogt-Roberts has only one other feature film credited to be his name, and it's a far cry from Kong, Skull Island. What he managed here is pretty incredible. A swift tone is weird thrill, right with a plenty of action and just enough wit. Most importantly, it does not get bagged or down in a pretty look. Isn't wanting to look like really good. We have come to be expect in this age of digital effect. Vogue Roberts and company goes beyond that, finding clever ways for the visual to make the action make scientific and emphasizes the smallness of man compared to their giant beastly threat. Another smart movie is putting together a fabulous cast. Hiddleston, Larson, Jackson, Villa, and Goodman are all great fits with their character, but just as fun are other character, played by quality supporting actor. It's maybe tempting to dismiss the Kong Skull Island as typical CGI heavy blockbuster much. In fact, it may be easy to do because Kong does not shy away from what it is. But it is no transforms like brain cell killer. It's a well-made, fast-paced monsters movie with a far more craft behind its presentation and storytelling than you would expect. I loved the Vietnam War art setting, the charming classic rock soundtrack, and the old school creature featured nostalgia. It all clicks in a way. I wish all big budget movies did, and be sure to be still until for the credit. I loved Kong Skull Island, and I think it's the best popcorn flick we have seen in a long, long time. It's a welcome palate, cleanser from the dark and gritty looking. It's an adventure film that took me back to be 1993 when I was a kid watching a Rex come to be life before my eyes in a Jurassic Park. It's absolutely a monster spawn popcorn flick. But if you look closer, it's a beautifully short film with engaging characters and a unique setting that allows for a non-heavy handed anti-war message. First off, I am very grateful that nothing in this film feels like a retread. Kong Skull Island does not take place in the 1930s. Kong does not have a distributing attraction to be human female. Kong does not step foot in New York City, and he does not climb away tall building holding any blonde actress in his palm. I am afraid the film would be a bogged down by visual references and curating to be fan of the original. But his take on Kong's stand, tall on its own two legs. I loved watching him outsmart his voice and use tool to be take down his opponent. This gives an interesting advantage when he finally encounters a certain giant lizard. This is something we have seen before, and as a fan of King Kong, I really appreciated this new take. The human characters were incredibly compelling and likable in many ways. The Sky Devil reminded me of mercenaries in a Predator. We don't know much about most of the characters and their backstory, but we almost immediately identified their camaraderie and their personal dynamic within the group. It make it meaningful when some of them meet their demise, and it gives us a feeling of relief seeing some of them survive through to be end credit. Samuel J. Jackson plays Lieutenant Preston Packard, a character unable to be accept the outcome of the Vietnam War. When Kong defends his home from Packard men, Packard project his frustration, defeat and loss during the war onto Kong, becoming obsessed with bringing him down. This motivation adds an interesting flair to what we just been a paper thin antagonist. You can relate to his anger even if you know he is definitely not in the right. Those dog tag Packard and his men collected don't just represent a soldier lost on Skull Island. They stand for all those that were lost in this war. As Kong is proxy for the enemy, to more level-headed character represent the anti-war sentiment that took place in the US. Johan C. characters Marlowe is basically a representation of hippie culture, seeing commonality in this fellow man and bonding with a man who is originally perceived as an enemy. He has developed a deep connection to the people of Skull Island and has earned a respect by the abetting by the pure way. Marlowe is a highlight, and I think his little epilogue was magnificent and emotional. These particular characters are so well rounded and deep. If you scratch beyond the surface, this is very smart, movie coated and an enjoyable dumb, searchy coated candy shell. I have to complain about Tom Hiddleston, James Conrad, and Billy Larson's Viverta character were pushed into the background for more interesting supporting cast. There just was not a lot of personality or depth to be these characters. They were likable enough, sure, but we needed more to be properly connect with them. The same can be said about Johan Goodman, Haken, and Tenzing. The monarch representatives, these people are all fine actors, but their characters are very thin. Goodman's Bill Vanta couldn't decide whether or not we wanted to be a villain or misunderstood hero, trying to save the world from unknown dangerous monster. We get a bit of backstory about we has obsessed with proving that Kong exists, but is the exposition Goodman deserved better. On a more positive note, the film is stunningly beautiful. Every shot looks like a piece of art. It takes several visual cues from Apocalypse Now, especially the usage of red and orange of fire to be sunset. The creature design was really neat as well. It's great to be see creature that were not just generic dinosaur and bug. That bamboo short spider thing was downright terrifying. Let's delve into the shared monster universe. There are several connections to the 2014 Godzilla can character character from the 1954 Gojira original was a member of Monrush, liking him to be Goldman's character. Speaking of Godzilla, this year was in a work for a long time. During the shortly after Godzilla hit theater, I braved a grueling trial that is the line to be get into hall. I happily jumped in line around 5:30 p.m. on Friday evening just so I could get in to see 10 minutes of exclusive footage of the upcoming movie. There's some jerkwalk who his cell phone would intuitively upload it to be YouTube anyway. During the legendary panel, Garrett Edward appeared on screen to be thank everyone for making Godzilla 2014 to be success, and I mentioned working on a Rogue One of Star story. Godzilla showed up then road, and Edward said he has something special to show the crowd in hall. This is me recalling something I saw once almost 3 years ago. But the basic gist of it was audio from a graphic space, accompanied by the static video showing blacked out dossier text and blurry images kicking to be stopped. We saw in the Godzilla's opening credit sequences. We get some really glimpses of what looks like erosion, accompanied by next confirming this is, in fact, erosion. Models are next looking more insect-like and less like the pure fire, fluffy, flying, suffered animal. We have seen him as an everything else. Mothra is a no confirmed for Godzilla 2. Then there's a green flicker. I count one head, then two, then three. King Kong of Godzilla Holly's door is letting us unworthy American play with their beloved toys. I screamed so loudly my throat burned from a weekend We are basically getting a modern destroy all monster. This is us and with a toward. Conflict inevitable. Let them fight. I had not been as excited since smiled at the prospect of quoting that in the Avenger. That year, legendary Universal also showed a first trailer for their new Kong film, which honestly I could think of care less about at all. Universal was releasing the picture, and crossover between the studio are a bit tricky and unlikely. So my dad did not immediately jump to be King Kong vs. Godzilla remake. I thought would have just got another boring Kong movie apping what had come before, as I also described the film as a prequel exploring the origin of Kong and his home, the titular Skull Island. Little did I know Legendary would take their Kong flick to be Warner Bros., setting things up from the biggest monster showdown in history. I came into Kong Skull Island, fully aware that the film would be the concrete concept tissue, linking this cinematic monster to be Godzilla and his fellow to be Erogure Gallery. Still, that post-credit scene gave me a chill, and hearing Godzilla roar in a King Kong movie made me smile so hard my face hurt after hour after leaving the theater. That post-credit scene was a perfect setup for a new King Kong vs. Godzilla film. So far, their shared universes are being handled with care and seemingly competent planning. Kong Skull Island takes place in the 1970s. We will just introduce a young Kong, not yet a king, but damn big and damn brutal already. Imagine how grizzled and battle-handed will be the year 2020. It's fair to be assumed that he is not mature and well grown. I believe that the next time we see Kong, he'll be older, smarter, stronger, and more than a watching match for that other king of the monster. Will we see Kong on Monster Island? Is Monsters Island actually just another name for Skull Island? How awesome would that be? Allow that monster converge at one geographical location, and King Kong joined the tree. I am speculating in this article like I would in the fifth grade, my friend during recess, and that's a case meant to be what Warner Bros. And Legendary are building with a character. Let's all hope that can actually pull this off. In 1973, the Vietnam War is ending, and two representatives from a largely secret government division called are granted permission to be head of mysterious island in the Pacific to investigate strange happenings. They get a military escort led by the colonel. While Kong Skull Island is star-studded, it's a mixed bag when it comes to be performances. Tom Hiddleston as air captain. There is a standout in the cast beside the big cap, who is under there's Johanse, who plays Hank. World War II point who's been living in the island since being shot on 20 years ago. He's without a doubt the most interesting and likable character of the bunch, aside from Raleigh and the Kong fighting sequences, which are epic in scale and incredibly impressive to be watched. Everything else about Skull Island feels way to be feel ordinary, the script is flat and unimaginative, missing any creative spark that's key in modern day big budget action movie. Just because it's set in the 17 does not mean the narrative has to be seen 14 years old. Director Jordan Robert constantly uses slow motion, random blasts of color in the scenery, and styled editing, but none of its work here. We do get to be made more treasure than the mighty Kong, but their only purpose is to be the obstacle from the human and time filler from the Odysseys before the inevitable final showdown. Warner Bros. Is setting the stage for their Godzilla vs. Kong movie in 3 years, which will follow Godzilla 2 in 2019. The studio is trying to build a blockbuster classic movie. Monsters franchise Kong is clearly up for the task, but this film proved that most of the humans behind the scene and in front of the camera are not. I was only 7 when the 2005 King Kong came out, and a massive Kong image on the poster, lobby displays, and in magazines cover shook me a bit. In fact, to this day, whenever I see a picture of the Kong, I still got a little bit of the joy. A dozen years later, Kong is back. However, Kong Skull Island is a revamping, not a remake of any of the previous version, and happily for me, at least the new Kong has a soft look and he is a leaner and maybe not meaner. In 1973, the Vietnam War is ending, and two representatives from a largely secret government division called are granted permission to be head a mysterious island in the Pacific to investigate the strange happening. They get a military escort led by the Colonel Packard, played by Samuel, who's excited to be have one more mission before giving to be returned home. Some scientists are and our ex-taker joined the expedition. Very quick into the revisit, King joined them as well. Those who survive King's initial attack must figure out how to be get off the island and how or if they should like the green cable monster. The scene gives a good look at the future of the Kong franchise. It shows protagonist James Conrad and Mason Weaver being told by the Project Monrad organization that more monsters are out there in the world. They show cave painting of the other creature. One of them we know pretty well because there's been a million more about it, Godzilla. Godzilla is already part of legendary picture Monsterverse and Project Monrad appear in the 2014 reboot Godzilla. There are folks who have been studying these giant monsters for years, fearing their return, and we know that King Kong and Godzilla will meet in the future. Legendary has announced Godzilla King of Monsters for 2019 to sequel the 2014 movie and Godzilla vs King Kong in 2020. Folks who are not that familiar with the app, lore of Godzilla might have recognized the other monsters we get a glimpse about monster movie fans will likely identify. The other creatures pretty quickly more rotten and Godzilla. Those other monsters shown in the post credit scene have faced off against both Godzilla and King Kong in past film. Introduced in the 1961 film, is a giant mode and that has fought Godzilla in movies a couple of times. While murder does not usually have any problem with humanity, being a giant hungry bug still make it pretty dangerous. Rodan is basically a huge dishonor, first appearing in Rodan in 1956. He is based on the Pteranodon and spends a lot of time flying and using his massive wing to try and stop. He has also battled Godzilla before, but the two monsters are generally allies, except of when India's extra being controlled Rodan's mind and turn him evil. The Godzilla and Rodan usually bear down, together risking a three-headed dragon. First showing up in the three-headed monster in 1964. He fought with Dale as well. He does not usually get mentioned. He can shoot gravity beam for his mode, whatever those are, and created him with his tail. So it seems Monarch has found at least a few other creatures to deal with. We know Godzilla and Kong are going to fight, but it's less clear whether Rodan and King will get film of their own before they are thrown into the mix with their famous counterpart. It seems a safe bet that at least one of the three will face off with Godzilla and King of the Monster. With a light title of Gun says that will have shown up, but we have a couple years to wait before we find out our sure. So Kung Fu Island on is not bad exactly. I don't know. Is it bad? It's kind of bad. But the thing is, it wants to do one thing and it does not it. That thing promises right here in the title. Not Kong. This is closer to the jealous screen adaptation of the giant app, Kong Giant the best. And he is kept off screen more than you would think. Based on the film's emerges reputation as like the 2014 Godzilla, if you never actually got to be see fucking Godzilla. No, it's just Skull Island, but this film really has no part. Find a gorgeous but ominous South Pacific island, surrounded by a seemingly eternal storm, the Harbor Island of Ono, and Australia Gold. The story wiped up for this version of this Kong legend. It's credited to be John Gaddins, Hodan, Max Bornstein, and Derek Connolly. But this has all the feel of film that was written by around a couple of dozen studio executives more than by any screenwriter. It's accordingly closer in spirit to the old show-working adventure stories of H. Rather Haggard than anything that is not ever had the name Kong attached to it. There is, to be sure, a pretty wild woman who catches Kong eye and dramatically alter the shape of the third act, but not in remotely the fashion of the ants and one of your Hell, she's not even blonde. Instead, we have got short of just about everything, and sort of not much of anything at all. The plot has a lot of movie part, and it is a supremely busy movie. But when you really dig down, it's almost all window dressing on the basic formula of dumping a whole laundry list of characters into a place that can be killed. One attempt, sometime you got enemy. Soldier to do it someone. You get a psychopath with a sport equipment. Sometime you get big damn monster. Anyway, Kong Skull Island at least has a big monster ride. The visual effects in the film are quite superb. Both at the level of technical execution, this film's Kong is a carefully managed piece of the animation, attempting to evoke the 1933 King Kong within the realm of proto-classic CGI, and it's self-evident and director Jordan Roberts cared more about getting him right and very other named character put together and designed. Most of the Skull Island base theory fell into the general category, a flawed version of normal animal. The movie's antagonist is the two-limbed lizard, like Skullcrawlers, are being exception. And would not you know, there are the worst creature here, but they are often inspired version thereof. An early encounter with a giant urchin with bamboo-like ass is a terrific maddening adventure story. A CGI killer spider who had on par with a greater spur from the Lord of the Ring. Combe himself is a little bit bland, in part because we have, let's be honest, seen this is whole routine before. And when Angie Saig is a team of greater effect artists and animators worked on Jake giant gorilla back in 2005 King Kong. They set a bar that I frankly don't see getting surpassed anytime in the meaningfully near future. The Skull Island team deliberately moved away from representing Kong as specifically a gorilla, conceiving of him a giant version of a photo homeland. But there is only so much you can do to silence the cause of such a milestone achievement as a 05 Kong. It's quite obvious, and not only because of the film's belated attempt to kickstart a cross-promotional franchise, that the filmmakers wanted their Kong so much Godzilla in 2014, something unknowably remote and imposing and just so damn big. But Robert, a veteran of online comedy, which is a strange training at least for a project like this, does not have Garrett Edwards' command of scale, and where Godzilla felt like a elder goat slowly pouncing his way across the human landscape, it does not even perceive, let alone care about. This new Kong way up to be 100 feet from his customary 25 the better so fired Godzilla in May 2020. The rise of the noisily overplanned film is just a big tall thing. He feels no more remote and impossible than the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, and with rather a great deal less scene of soul-stopping wonder to boot. Still and all, the facial animation is great. The angry salmon, a terrific bit of sound editing, and the beast waterfall, mostly from the island. Humidity is a real beauty of, and of course you all know the official alternate ending policy. To be much too impressed by good texturing in CGI. All these words, and not one to be spared from the human plot. Well, no, the simple fact is, the actual story of Skull Island is painfully generic, and so are the people populating it. As one scan over the cast list, a truly remarkable number of actors seem to be doing, if not their career worst work, then at least where they are well capable of battering Corey Higgins. In his first feature appearance since playing Doctor in Straight Compton is the closest thing we have got to a standout. Otherwise, the market of exposure is given one solitary characteristic to be help us tell which like as now their characteristics is a huge of the skin, and several joylessly terrible performances by people who really ought to be know better. Tom Hiddleston vapid beyond anything he's ever done, and love Loki Tove Aldo. Is not exactly a term deep actor. Lawson, who seems justifiable annoyed by the Darius character, again who acts his protagonist and who does play Harvey Dent even less than one note. Johan Goodman, who has a sassy sharpness is all early seen with the game going Richard Jenkins as a US Senator. and loses all his team thereafter. As forward those humans are out to be God blessed. Skull Island is attempting to be returned into a tourist eyes on America's war with Vietnam. The time period first is set, however, it's taken only a very few minutes to become clear that Robert known more about the war movies than the actual Vietnam War. And so we are actually looking at a traces on apocalypse now, which I guess is an on one way to do it. I would slag the film little bit of the tastelessness in reducing a major international crisis to a metaphor for being attacked by giant lizard beasts, but it's really not worth it. The only thing that seemed to be genuinely matter about the 1973 setting is the Donbass American politics will never be this terrible again. It's all quite ridiculous, clumsy class out together, and divide of nature, narrative tension taking clock is dropped in and done, instantly forgotten. But it looks sleek enough, almost handsome but appropriately held back by commitment to the of 70s cinematography as filtered through modern digital workflow. Their whole thing just kind of lives there. 2017's Kong Skull Island is the only prequel in legendary monster verse so far, and differs from most other Kong films. Instead of focusing on the king of the jungle kidnapping or death like the 1933 original and this many remakes, Skull Island altered the tragic nature of Kong's character and sets a shared universe scene for his upcoming conflict. In this universe, a research group first encountered Kong when they are sent to Skull Island during the Vietnam War. They work for Monarch, a government organization trying to find more evidence of giant monsters that are similar to Godzilla. As the researchers approach the island, Cannon destroyed a military helicopter. Other group is split up. One portion of the group tries to escape this island, while the military escort group begin hunting Kong. Whether Kong should be hunted or left alone becomes a major point of conflict between the group's separate factions. At the end of the Skull Island, Kong stands victorious over the Thing, a group of antagonistic Skull Rider monsters and the military forces that hunted him. Alternatively, he can be attentively early thanks to his relationship with a researcher who helped him had members of the research team not interfered in the military's attempt to be kill Kong. This is unique situation because Kong is no longer the tragic character he is in previous movie. Most of the classic Kong spectacles and him famously getting shot on from the top of the Empire State Building. Skull Island shows him slaying to kill other monsters and wreaking havoc on the American military. He still has tragic element to the character, but at the end the day going is now a triumphant hero. This is a key piece of information because it set up Kong upcoming appearances in Godzilla vs. Kong. When Godzilla starts running rampant once again, we'll need another monster to be stand against him. Godzilla already proved the best weapon against a monster is another monster. So it makes sense that a grand government organization would call on Kong to do battle. He is the only battle monster they have seen come out victorious in a monster versus monster about. And for those worried about a difference in weight class, Kong's size should be an issue. He is usually dwarfed by the Godzilla skull and point out that Kong's species can get much larger. In the 1970s, era of that movie, Kong was nowhere near its full size. Fast forward to the present day, it's Godzilla vs. Kong, and he should be absolutely massive. As a trial for the film show, he is now roughly equal to Godzilla's stature. Whether he has what it takes to be about beat Godzilla is another question that movie will answer. Beauty may have killed the beast, but King Kong's star power has never diminished after nearly a century, and it shows to be no sign of slowing down. It's rare for a human character to be his beloved for so long, but a monster that is out for only a select few. But while of King Kong cinematic outing have been memorable, there are some we would be to like forget. Which King Kong movies are classic, and we should have never loved the island. Here's every King Kong movie ranked worst to be best. With 0% tomato score, King Kong Lives is the worst King Kong movie and is also in the running for worst movie ever. Released 10 years after Dino the King Kong in 1976. King Kong isn't a sequel nobody wanted to be remake nobody asked for. When none of it started from the first film and a fraction of the budget. Turns out King Kong survived his nearly 2000-foot fall from atop the World Trade Center in one of the first instances of retconning. But he needs an artificial near to be survived. Yes, there's even a surgery scene. If this is not bizarre enough, the film also features Kong creature of female Kong. Like we get that they wanted to be make a sequel, albeit 10 years after anyone got, but this was the best they could do. King Kong Lives came out 53 years for the original King Kong, and yet his special effects are less convincing. While King Kong stop motion combination was groundbreaking, King Kong Lives and its 1976 predecessor opted for a more primitive filmmaking technique of putting a man in a gorilla suit. It's a little wonder King Kong Lives was a Raspberry Award nominee for worst special effects, as we are pretty sure we could make a more convincing giant gorilla movie with a Halloween costume and a cell phone. King Kong Lives bound with a $12.7 million budget, thinning out the character out 20 years. King Kong Lives came out 10 years after 1976 King Kong, an eternity between the sequel. But Hollywood is not always moves so slowly. Nowadays, the sweet spot is about a 2-3 year gap between films. Any shorter and you risk overcrowding the marketplace. Any longer and your audience may move on. Well, in old Hollywood there was no such on concern, as the only philosophy was strike while the iron is not. So while King Kong was released in New York City on March 2, 1933, its sequel Son of Kong came out on December 22, 1933. Pictures wrote, produced, edited, and released a sequel in 9 months. You are lucky to have a first draft of your screenplay done in 9 months these days. Gotta admire that efficiency. But while you can respect their work ethic, you can't respect the finished product. Son of Kong is just over 69 minutes long, so it barely even qualifies as a feature film, and is so thrown together that it barely qualifies as a movie-going experience. As for the plot, Carol Denham, the explorer filmmaker from the original movie, has been sued into the bankruptcy and returned to Sculp Island in the hope of finding treasure to pay off his debt. But instead, he finds a 25-foot tall albino baby Kong instead. Son of Kong followed his predecessor's Brad to success with a totally unsuccessful sequel that killed whatever chance Kong had of being a multi-film series a lot after Universal Studios most of them. It was only a natural King Kong remake would arrive in the 1970s, the same era as the Towering Inferno, the Poison Adventure, and the Jaw. Naturally, the man to be bring it to be this again was the as no remaining of the world's small and assembled to be $24 million budget. Nearly 60 years after King Kong vs. Godzilla, that big lizard got his remake in 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong. Besides being a much better movie than the original 79% critical score and 99.5% audience score on Rotten Tomato, Godzilla vs. Kong could be the more historically significant too. That's pretty impressive considering King Kong vs. Godzilla was groundbreaking. King Kong is not really a remake but a biggest example of fan fiction in cinematic history. A pre-Peter Jackson pitched the King Kong remake to be universal success in the mid-1990s. While the studio was on board with his vision, a swashbuckling adventure pick similar to the Mummy Access bugged when they realized the new Godzilla and Mighty Joy Young were coming out first, and they feared coming in third. A heartbroken Jackson took fair refuge in J.R.R. Tolkien's most work, raising his stock considerably. Jackson eventually got a Titanic size $1,007 budget $20 million, which went to be his ballad, and a big tree over runtime. It was a lot of but Lord's success. Universal figured it was a bargain. While King Kong received an 84% tomato score in $213 million domestic and $562 million worldwide box office grosses underwhelmed based on this budget. It's too long maybe, but while Kong's epic land proved to be much for many movies here, Kong the Hare believes the better Jackson's love better to be original could not last enough. After all, the relationship between the Big Gap and Nami was and Dolph feels genuinely sweet, And the fantastic sequences where Kong battles a bunch of dinosaurs is the kind of scene that movies were made for. King Kong is one of the greatest movies ever. Period big budget genre blockbusters dominate movie today, and King Kong was first. Only Star Wars comes close to its influences on special effects, and at early 100 years old, King Kong is still the best stop motion movie ever. King Kong is a 100-minute highlight reel of iconic movie moment, from the beauty payover screaming in terror at a beast to the mighty abyss smashing through Skull Island's importable road to be the heartbroken King Kong, taking his last stand atop the Empire State Building. King Kong is truly a triumph of the imagination, the kind of the cinematic spectacle that could only be made in a golden age of Hollywood. But the backstory of King Kong is almost as amazing as the film itself. Gold-trotting adventure Marine Sea, Cooper the Gay Guy is a biopic developed project for RKO Picture. Shiv Davidos and they came up with the idea of a giant gorilla picture. He was originally going to be have a real-life gorilla fight a Komodo dragon, but when the idea became untenable, he stumbled into a dinosaur project called Creation from the stop-motion mastermind behind 1925 The Lost World. Willie Sobrian inspired Cooper Trot, whatever the gorilla for dinosaur, and a masterpiece was born. King Kong cost 5 lakh 10 million today. A fortune at the time, but it was what King Kong was a huge hit and the 18 wonder of the world still inspires away today. Godzilla was a massive success upon its release in 1954, so of course it made sense of Toho to be pushed out a sequel to the film as quickly as possible. That arrived the following year in the term of the Godzilla race again, and as a case with a lot of quickly made sequel, the results are disappointing. For one thing, this is a film to feature monster versus monster combat as Godzilla battle follow dinosaur like creature. The battles are not yet they will later become. There is a lot of shuffling around. Much of it in fact to be looks animistic, but just not to be so fun as a full and wrestling matches that would follow in future film. The mythology is also a little underwhelmingly, particularly when you find out that his Godzilla is actually just an adult giant lizard from the same species. Since they killed the original monster at the end of the first film, the film also suffered technically, featuring a good deal less atmosphere and visual artistry than its predecessor. All that said, Godzilla raised the gate in the vegetable, but is the definition of a blockbuster sequel. Much of the film's plot concerns a princess who is apparently possessed by an alien from Venus, trying to be warn humankind of impending doom in the form of several massive monsters, including King in his first appearances in the franchise. Worship predicts come to be passed, and King, having already decided over one streaming civilization on Venus, apparently, has his own earth to be rained on, destruction with history had. Two tails and lightning bread. Mankind only hope his team up of Godzilla, Rodion, and Mothra, and it turned out itself to be Mothra to be get a team up started in the first place. In one of the most iconic scenes in the entire franchise, Mothra actually talked in Monster Speak, with the priestess known as the Shobjin to be Rodion and Godzilla to be convinced them to be help. When they decline, she flies into the battle engaged on her own disparate effort to save humanity. Parlejar were in the middle of the Showa era of the Godzilla film. Toho tried to be focused on keeping budget in check while also devoting its better crew to be other film. And unfortunately, there are some time shows in the work. The studio also experimented with broadening the franchise's appeal through the introduction of various novel characters, which unfortunately brings up to Godzilla's son's main era. There is nothing inherently wrong with the Godzilla having of suffering. In fact, later films also tried with his idea to be varying degrees of success. Here, the interaction between the Godzilla and Manilia are played with such a comedic but put upon further sensibility that it started to be great on almost immediately. Minha quickly becomes an and his reputation as one of the more questionable choices in the franchise is secure. That's not the only problem with the film, the creature this time around. The giant mantis is called the giant spider called Lookool, but because there is a puppet instead of man and sword, the fight scenes are rather limited in terms of the intensity. Plus, a Godzilla suit built from this film to make him look more like a parent just does not work. The Jesus era of Godzilla film kicked off with an attempt to return the character to its atomic horror root with a somewhat divisive. The return of the Godzilla 1984 and Ching's remained better draw Godzilla vs. Z in the 1989. Those are both sad films, but the Jesus period really picked up steam with its third entry, which managed to be maintains a relatively serious tone while also developing its own version of the Showa era so everything at a screen approach. The story begins with the notion that Godzilla actually first appeared to be human as a smaller, less mutated dinosaur version of himself in 1944 when he saved a group of World War II. A group of them travel from the future embark on a mission to stop the dinosaur from being irritated and thus turning into the Godzilla. But it turned out their real mission was to be swap the dinosaur out for the three smaller creatures who would then be irritated to be created king. Things only get more convoluted from there. But with what all of this essentially built to is a battle between Godzilla and Mecha King. It's inevitable a franchise that has a varied and long-lasting as a Godzilla film that the occasional corner will be cut. Sometimes there is such in relatively small-scale storytelling, like Son of Godzilla, which is largely relegated to be Monster Island, and sometimes that result in a lackluster catch better and other shortcoming. It also means that at one point in the Godzilla series, we got a film that was in the same way, just the sizzle reel of Godzilla film which came before it. All Monsters Attack, also known as Godzilla Revenge, is the story of a young boy named who dreams of Monster Island to escape his lonely, bullied life. In his dream, he befriends Godzilla's son Minilla, and the two deal with their respectively bullies through the power of friendship. That this is not necessarily a bad concept, but the film also leans heavily on footage of Godzilla is not being recycled from Son of Godzilla and Ebert. Heard of the tip among others. There is also the problem of Menilia, who remains annoying despite his noble quest to be overcome. He is bully. There is nothing necessarily wrong with the premise, but the execution leaves a lot to be desired. The final film is the Jesus period of the Godzilla film had to be go out with a bang, and well did that could be been just another monster team up movie. What we got is one of the most moving and ambitious films in the entire franchise. When Godzilla appeared with a glowing mark all over in his body, scientists determined that his heart, which functions as a nuclear reactor, is in fact melting down, and that he is impending dead and could pack enough power to be wiped out of the planet. As if that were not terrible enough, they also discovered that the original oxygen destroyer device used to be kill Godzilla in the very first film in 1944. Godzilla vs. has it all. Godzilla is an ultimate peril. A monster antagonist that both legitimately creepy and appropriately massive. Charlie Power character who generate real empathy, and it even somehow managed to be pulled off a Godzilla Jr. Plot really lands. It all culminates in the truly effective final that shows us the that and rebirth of Godzilla in a way no other film has. In the 1970s, was hoping to create its own giant hero modeled after the success of the Japanese character and had a contest asking children to design their own hero. The resulting character, after plenty of tweaks by the studio, was a giant reboot jet who was originally supposed to be get his own film. Somewhere along the way, that jet film was merged with a Godzilla film, and Godzilla vs. Megalon is the result. Godzilla as a giant robot man in the same movie definitely sounds like fun, but the film itself suffered from a rushed production process. One of the less impressive monster design in the form of Megalon, and the plot has spent more time with Jet than you need up inventing. The film is also famous for depiction of Godzilla executing a dropkick that ends up looking like he's riding his own tail. And a monster fight don't really improve beyond that. First of all, just look at it and read it out loud a couple of times. It's one of the best introductions you could hope for to be Godzilla film because it tells you exactly what you'll be about to see without spoiling how you're going to be see it. Like many other entries in Godzilla's Millennium era, giant monsters all out attack function as a direct sequel to the original 1954 film, ignoring all previous installment. That means the film once again famous Godzilla as a villain, hellbent and destruction, and once again depict the first meeting between the Godzilla and two of his greatest co-stars, and King Gatebot in this film the latter two monsters, along with a comparably minor character, are framed as a guardian monster who have to be awakened to be saved the world from Godzilla, and the twist and turn that result from his methods have driven the film even beyond a film battle at one point. Motora's spirit merged with the keyboard to create King, and the visual effects are a little dated. It remains a sight to be behold. This movie is a pure monster fun, and all proof that sometimes you need to be wiped. The slate claimed to be built something new within a seemingly immortal franchise. I will admit that I was more than skeptical when Kong Skull Island was first announced. A new King Kong movie, really Patrick Jackson's 2005 version, still felt fresh in my mind. Perhaps because it's been playing on TV so often. But Kong Skull Island was supposedly a different type of Kong movie. It was gonna be more modern, more action oriented, and part of a larger monsters movie series. That all sounded nice and dandy, but it was not going to be played with until I saw. Then I saw it in IMAX 3D, and now it's really good Kong Skull. Island delivers just about everything you would expect from its marketing campaign and PR promises. The action is exciting. The special effects are fantastic. The acting is non-distinctly serviceable, and there is nothing else to it. As pure cinematic escapian Kong Skull, Island Regent King. The story is simple. The mythical world of King Kong was first introduced way back in 1933. Willie Sobian's now famous stop motion monster wreaking havoc on New York. King Kong entered the world of CGI with the Patrick Jackson 2005 remake, and now Kong is returning to be screened in the Vietnam era set Kong Skull Island, and he won't be alone. Kong Skull Island takes us back to the long lost home of Kong, introducing us also a bunch of new human characters and a bunch of unique monsters along the way. Fans are itching to know more about both the cast of humans and the new beasts that will be unleashed. And luckily, there are loads of new details to pour and through. Coming soon, got to visit the set of Kong Skull Island and has released some chat bite about various characters and monsters. Straight from the character and director themselves. Star Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson shared insight into their character, while director Jordan Robert talked about Kong and some other new monster. Here is what we learned. He is a survivalist, he is a tracker. Army lost and found. He is a guy you send in to find a missing person if a plane or a helicopter has crashed in a jungle, because he has a special tracking ability. He's been in the army for a long term. He is a filter. He's been in the army for a long term. He is a lifer. He believes in his man's life and sensitivity. God and country Mr. Character is the standard for people seeing something that they don't understand and identify it as the enemy and not realizing their part and antagonizing that particular thing and that you are responsible for making that thing to do what it does. I mean that thing was doing nothing until you got here and here you are and now the thing's doing something. So what should you like think you do man annoyed? He has a point of view that different from a lot of the people that she is surrounded by because of period. She is not seen as a valuable team member at first, but she is incredibly strong-willed and has had to be in all male environment for so long. And she has to be learned how to be blended. That's a huge part of her job. So you see at the beginning of the movie assumes that she is very capable of taking control of the situation and creating the boundaries because she is just there to get a job done. If Kong is the god of this island, we wanted each of the creatures to feel like individual gods of their own domain. We want to be show audiences new thing and so having the creature not feel derivative of Jurassic World or they are too alien alike or too H.P. Lovecraft. Princess Moonkim was actually a big reference in the way that a spirit creature sort of fit within that. The big thing was trying to be design creature that felt realistic and could exist in an ecosystem that feels sort of real and out there. Design things that simultaneously felt beautiful and horrifying at the same time. Where if you look at this giant spider or white buffalo, you stare at it and part of you say, that's the most amazing thing I have ever seen. We want to find something that feels real, but that sort of player homage to the fact that King is not just a big monkey it was. He is not just a big gorilla. He is his own big thing and therefore we have liberties with what do we do to heart. I think the Godzilla design was really well received because it paid damage homage to what came before, but also felt like something fresh. So we have just been doing everything to really get that to be planned, where you can't look at it out and you feel like it. Could be standing there with those people, but have it feel like home. Images and thriller from the film suggest Vogt-Roberts and his team were successful in finding a blend between the natural and the fantastical. At the same time, they appear to be have upper down on the Kong, making him more massive and terrifying than ever. Kong is familiar to before, so there might actually be a higher level of intrigue about the monster, including the brilliantly named Skullcrawler. It's interesting that Dr. Vogt-Roberts would specifically mention his intention to create monsters that don't like they came from Jurassic World. People are naturally going to compare Skull Island to the Jurassic World, and it sounds like the director is eager to be bad on such comparison. The takeaway from his comment is that Skull Island is different for any movie fantasy world you have seen before, including one's former earlier King Kong movie, pulling off a truly frightening action-packed. There are moments at which Kong Skull Island feels more like an evocative theatrical land montage. Robert and a movie has daring and distorting quality to it. Robert saturates the screen with red and green, whilst and the camera at incredible velocity and cuts at an impressive tempo. Even dialogue heavy scenes are constantly panning and cutting. The approach does no favor to the cause. Most of the player in Kong. Skull Island seem to have more trouble finding a consistent character, troll and a mythical monster. Tom Hiddleston seems quite lost of most of the film. Brie Larson probably does the best job of any the major player. Although the rapid film editing help. John C. Bailey seems stubbornly eccentric as the obligatory and exhibition character. Veteran performers like Johan Goldman and Samuel L. Jackson are forced to be hot on real life. However, now this is a problem. For all its flaws, Kong Skull Island overestimate how interesting its human characters are, mostly treating them as a vehicle to get to be promised to be monster mash. Robot direction might seem apocalyptic and over-caffeinated. Kong Skull Island never feels entirely cohesive as a feature film. That is not a fatal flaw. The movie feels wide and ethereal. The audience is constantly kept off balance by the heightened stylish choices and the ghost with which the movie seizes upon these opportunities. In some way, Kong Skull Island feels very much like a conscious response to Godzilla. Garth Edward Monsters reboot made a point to be foreground its human character. While made the movie particularly controversial among genre aficionados, the main attraction wasn't the lead title, and so the time devoted to be a stock family reunion story felt particularly rigorous. More than that, Edward cycled through a selection of potentially interesting performers in a great cause, but somehow decided that Aaron Taylor Johnson should be the focus of the film. Kong Skull Island seems carefully calibrated to avoid or repeating that mistake. The primary characters in Kong are all conscious archetypes, to the point that it's a miracle that any of them even reached into the second dimension. The film's nominal leader, perhaps, is the most obvious example, with Tom Hiddleston playing the ex-military team later. Conrad is introduced in a dive bar in Saigon, easily winning a bar fight and providing the clinical commentary on the ill-fated mission. Inevitably, he proves himself a true leader of men. Tom Hiddleston seems lost in the role, like a character actor who inadvertently found himself at the center of a colossal blockbuster. Hiddleston is a fantastic performer. If given the right material, he is generally quite good at calibrating his performances to match the film around him. However, he struggled to be filled the shoes of a generic action movie bad. His roughness always seems spot on. His graph somehow less convincing than the impressive computer generated imagery around him. A lot of this is adorned to be added of the film. There are moments when it feels like director Jordan Robert has discovered that a film is suffering from attention deficit disorder and so has decided to pump it out of sugar. Watching Kong is often seems like the actor might be performing separately from one another. Whether that disconnect is a result of time or space. When Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson are also be connect with one another after a helicopter crash. Vogt-Roberts rarely allow them to be shared the same frame. When Samuel Jackson and Johan Goodman get an opportunity to really look one another in the eye after their card or on the table. The edit makes it seem like both characters are staring into the space. If any actor benefit from the approach to the material, it is John C. Reilly is a cast in the role of the veteran with actual experiences of the island. However, is this time growing up on that remote rock surrounded and mysterious has clearly taken its role. Hank Marlowe is clearly a few sandwich short of a picnic, but his casualness is enhanced by all the quick cutting and the strange disconnect. Watching Rely as Marlowe, it increasingly seems like this is how they seem the world, and that Marlowe is almost the only sane character. After all the disappointed or conscious choices on the part of Robert, it is not something that happened by the accident. Kong even makes a note to be approached as our hero, explore a scared space belonging to be native of the island, have been painted by the strange patron. Decoration does seem surreal when the character first approach. However, as the movie clever, the angle shift, using depth, the separated illustration, combined to form a single image. There is a sense that Robert is attempting something similar with Kong. Kong plays very much like a good quiz. It is a film that has a very simple story, populated by a very simple character, with very simple role. However, the richness of the film is rooted in its aesthetic. Kong is a movie that looks stunning and is never boring. Robert conveys a film plot largely through montage, through the pairing of evocative imagery with impressive sound designed to create a compelling and intriguing tone. Much of the dialogue in Kong is largely redundant, Robert conveying almost everything that needs to be said. It is an approach that arguably shortens the cost, but it very much cites the material. The quick cuts and the hyper-kinetic camera make it difficult to be engaged with any of character or performances, but to keep the audiences off balance. Kong is incredibly hyper-stylized, from the repeated use of angle to be diegetic sound. The movie many montage sequences frequently slow down and speed up. Cuts exist with the same charming zone of normal human behavior to get quicker to the action. In fact, Kenny repeatedly draw attention to his own unreality. Hold on to your butts. Preston Packard advises at one point in a note to Samuel Jackson's other iconic monster movie appearances. Marlowe repeatedly references his hometown of Chicago, a nod to the movie that secured Johnson Reilly his first Oscar nomination. This is particularly apparent in Toby Cable's twin role on the film. Is that an app? Jack Champion asked as Kong come interview. Of course, Cable would know. Cable played Koba in Dawn of Band of Web and suits up as Kong in this film. Tellingly, it is Champion who has the first intimate one-on-one encounter with Kong. Cable appears in the same that himself, except that one version of himself is a motion capture giant app. There is an endearing and exciting surreal band to all of this. Kong is completely disinterested in immersion or nationalism, which is the approach that fits rather well the material at hand, and again contrasts with the Godzilla. This is a story about a bunch of people who go to be an island occupied by monsters. It makes sense that it should all seem hyperreal and distinct from the real world, Kong moves incredibly quickly. Thanks to both Vogt-Roberts' decision to keep the camera moving and the rapid tempo of cuts, Kong is thrilling and exciting. It is also feels playful and fun, in that it finds something new to do with the abnormous giant monkey. King Kong is rightfully iconic, one of the great movie monsters with and it has permeated pop culture to be such a degree that even those people who have not seen a King Kong movie understand the expected beats. Kong does an excellent job offering a lot of expected image of King Kong film, while doing that familiar setup Kong film just as similar enough to be earlier effort. That is but also just novel enough to hold an audience's attention. After all, there are clear connections to be drawn between the expedition or organizer Bill Ranta and classic showdown Carol Denham. Both are characters who misland an expedition pursuit of mythic monster. Arthur Kong provides Rand with a motivation and background that feels distinct enough. Similarly, there are echoes of Anne Barrow to be found in Mason Weaver, the female character, who makes an emotional connection with Kong. Her Weaver is a very much an updated and contemporary character. Similarly, Kong makes sure to be include images that will resonate with and myth and iconography of King Kong, but in ways that do not feel entirely like retreat. Kong still fight a giant lizard monster. Of course, Archer is nothing as simple as T-Rex. Kong still find a way to be tangled this abnormous monster in chain, even if it's consciously avoid the alert attack that audiences have come to be expect from a King Kong story. It is a very delicate and teasing balance, but Kong constantly stays on the right side of it. It helps that Kong finds something relatively new to be say about a giant crab. Taking a page from the Godzilla mythology, Kong's position is monster at the center of giant metaphor from mankind's capacity of war. The nuclear bomb is part of that. But not all it. An excellent opening montage establishes that theme, as does the decision to set the story in the immediate aftermath of the Vietnam War. When Marlowe explained that the was trapped on the island during the war, another character asks, which one? Marlowe's side figure. Kong might not have a firm grasp on character, but it uses his character to be clearly anti theme. We did not use low staff war, packed ashore waiver early in the film. We abandoned it, convincing Connor to be sign on. Then advised him. Men go to war because they are looking for something. If you would found it, you would be home by now. Staring out at night, okay, sky, Connor, confessness nobody come home from war. Not really. It is a familiar theme drawn very broadly, but is demonstrate the advantage of Robert Loser visual style. If Kong spent more time with his character, or if the film spent more energy trying to be convinced the audiences to see them as modern archetype, this heavy and protonious observation would be great. Instead, they add Dexter Kong is clearly positioned as an enemy. That the soldier could never vanquish the Alpha and the Omega. One of the smartest, smaller touches of the film is the shading on Kong's body texture. Vogue robot direction consciously plays into this. Some of the movie's edit and transition are quite disorienting, particularly within scene. However, the film also conveys quite a lot of true transition between the scene, where is skillfully using thematic connection to jump from one concept of character to the another. For example, early in the film, the movie cuts from Brenda telling Conrad that he must be looking for something straight to be. We were developing images in the dark room. Visual language and tone is important as dialogue. This framing also allows Robert to be sample library from other genres. Kong is in many ways a Vietnam movie, one that feels particularly in debate to be apocalypse now. After all, it spent a lot of time on those helicopter dropping ordnance and also features a very important boat journey of river. The characters or Conrad even seems like a shadow to be Conrad who wrote heart of darkness. Indeed, the pulpy nature of the material even allow Kong to be land a few very effective blows. At one point, the character come face to face with a dark field canyon decorated with the bones of one great creature who would win in the fight between the King Kong and Godzilla. My dad, of overseeing Jordan Vogt-Roberts, new picture Kong Skull Island. Ignored it's a contest and a giant scientist app would have no issue in crushing a big lizard with little arm and a pea-sized brain. What my dad says being outing. 2005 Kong measured up in just 25 feet compared to be 355 feet to Dad Godzilla clocked at 10 Gad Edward. Godzilla from 2014. That presumably why this is latest reboot in the character. Slide from 4 years history sees Kong boosted to his mightiest height yet. And impressed to be 104 feet as we all know. Bigger always means better, right? By that logic, Skull Island could only be incredible, yes. Before going any further here, it's important to be established early on Jar Kong. Skull Island is a ridiculous, stupid blockbuster indeed. The film itself does so by opening randomly in 1944, with a vague caption somewhere in the South Pacific and a scene will go to make no sense in the context of later revelation. On the other hand, Preposterous says Skull Island truly is its combination of stunning cinematography, impressive effects, and a genuinely awe-inspiring calm himself. Just about saved the day. After so random a prologue, the plot speed through 29 years of American history, told through epical universe footage, 1973. Effect emphasizes not only via corruption, but also several massive visual cues. It's 1973, alright. John Goodman and Gory Hagen. They have characters named in the film, but who actually care? Arrive at the White House at a time when we are told Washington's never going to be a more secured up than it's now, with the aim of securing permission to undergo an undistant geological survey mission of Mysterious Island. Once given all the clear, that you decorate over very great Hiddleston, having been declared that humans are separate across the island in small pockets. A survival that quickly discovered a real threat that stalked the island in the form of the enormous spider-like things, reptilian monsters and wakening fool and knife-popping Samuel Jacksons. To Kong Skull Island favor, the total lack of respect has logic and believability does let the film an enjoyable unpredictability, and that carefully anything could happen at any given point, whether it makes sense or not. Also hopeful are those magnificent VFX, filmed to a comic book aesthetic later akin to be silver, sleeker version of Young Man, or undoubtedly Patrick Hiddleston. Mason's viewer, while may be warmer and more likable, but seemed to be have a role in the film. As photographer, created solely for the purpose of allowing her to be appear in shock from behind her camera lens on umpteen occasion. Comic reliefs come from Rayleigh meanwhile, who gives probably the best performances here, in actual flesh and blood at any rate. When a film's 100-foot behemoth is a more relatable and five characters however you know that something clearly gone awry. Now to take away that is from the billionaires, our version's Kong is managed a motion capture that would never think to be cushioned structure is anything other than real. The other monsters are still more Jurassic Park and a little less distinctive, but their battle with Kong remain epic in their brutality. If you can refrain from rolling your eyes long enough to be witness action actually taking place, and essentially damp your brain gas cell for the 2 hour time. Kong Skull Island will serve you well as a great less of guilty pleasure. Edward Godzilla stuck around for a post-credit station for Godzilla. King of Monsters beats 423. We'll see my dad proved wrong in the Godzilla vs. King. So I have never actually seen the original King Kong, not all the way, two or in one sitting in live. That's not something I regret, it is despite being the movie guy. In my group of friends and despite being a person who prides himself on his knowledge of movie history. It may ultimately be a failing on my part, but it's just that don't have a great deal of patience when it comes to the classic, and as is been the case we citizen can. The Graduate or Scarface. I doubt that I am going to be see the original King Kong anytime soon. I have seen part of it, of course, the same way we have all watched on an episode of the Big Bang Theory. Press the wrong floor in compared elevator or return on subway, but it was never unintentionally behind his viewing. So well, I have a pretty good idea of what the movie was about. I don't really know that people seen it, but I have seen the 2014 Godzilla. Beyond the obvious, it's a monster movie. But first thing you should know about Kong Skull Island, 2017 iteration of Venerable Giant Monkey, intentionally put together that way because it sounds funny. Is that like just about all up-to-date major movie releases? It's not meant to be the standalone piece, at least not in the sense that the 1933 original was meant to stand alone. Alongside 2014 Godzilla Kong Skull Island is one of the first steps in Warner Bros. Monsterverse franchise, produced by the Chinese-owned Legendary Entertainment and a partnership with the Japanese-owned will eventually see a big fight with Godzilla and King Kong, I guess. If we are being honest, it all sounds kind of stupid and more than a little dark, especially against the expanded continuing universes and from the backdrop of our current cinematic experience. But if we are choosing to be the genuinely honest and reflective, we may as well go ahead and admit that most movies and stories are about people fighting each other. I think it's just all gotten to be about too literally lately. You should add that I am nevertheless a huge, unabashed, and a vocal fan of the 2014 Godzilla. In the post-Vietnam War 1973, government agent Bill Randa receives clearance to lead a team to be favored. Skull Island, returning logical Houston, Brooks, our biologist and Lane, enlisting the aid of the former British. One thing that really stood out to me while watching Kong Skull Island is what a crazy, waking on insane cast as is a motivist style story. And I think the moment that became crystal clear and I started to be actively notice how many truly noteworthy actors are in the movie was when I realized about Dre and Easy A were going along on his adventure that would now include almost half of the main cast of the Straight Cupton. In Kong, we have veteran, celebrity level actors like Samuel L. Jackson, John Goodman, and John C. Rely more recent breakout stars like Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston. Notices all over the place like Shia Wakeham. All of those names in Kong also mean that, besides the trait competency and easy, the movie has current and future DMS character in Nick Fury, Loki, and his chief Roger. On the same topic of movie franchising, as over, after it as King Kong and Godzilla met at first scene, with a former a freak of nature who stuck largely to his own self-contained movie, and the latter the mysterious culmination of over-mutated nuclear Panola whose adventure stretched out to be seeming never-ending list of sequels, reboots, situation, and eras there actually exist a precedent for the two together. There was several times when I felt genuine excitement watching Kong Skull Island, a few times when I thought that it could have taken the crown of best movie of the year, at least so far, in the first 2.5 months of 2017. And overall, there were many times where I was actually very glad that I chose to be see the movie despite the cold and snow of the particular Friday, March 10. Here is an admonition. But it's hard to be said that Kong Skull Island is actually a good movie so much as it's merely good enough. On the bright side, it's almost impossible to deny this movie's entertainment value, especially if you have the type of person who likes to real human being God, maimed and eaten by a giant monster. On that front, Kong Skull Island succeeded in a way that movie like 2014 Godzilla usually failed, offering up fast, furious, and varied giant monster action as soon as it can and a near perfect leap. Kong is a force of nature for his sheer scale against all other pony human and for his way physically. The movie not only sells you on the brutality of Kong and what he lives in the scarred light of next to the edge of meta, commentary with some of the concluding calculated, and almost practice a look of some of his fighting movie as you watch him engage in hand-to-hand combat with the main monster bad guys of Skull Island. On the same meta level, the choice of post-Vietnam setting allow for a striking directorial style that even those of us who have not seen the movie's visual inspiration would recognize as a being important. There are similar matter of Agnes to the movie that almost a complete opposite of his 2014. But I was little disappointed. I do want a little bit more from this movie, no matter what their apparent subject matter. And I am a big fan of 2014 Godzilla. In a direct comparison, it's easy to see how Kong Skull Island might stand out as superior and almost a direct response to Big Godzilla. But what Kong offers a fast, brutal thriller. I am not yet suggesting that a movie rendered poorly or done badly is simply missing that something extra that makes us think about movies long after we have seen them. There is a reason